Hi everyone, thanks for coming to my TED Talk tonight. I'll be talking about Peter Thiel, who is a billionaire, entrepreneur, investor, and technology businessman. Thiel is often described as a tech wizard who has changed the tech world in Silicon Valley in many more ways than you would know. When we hear the name Peter Thiel, there might not be a whole lot that rings a bell. A lot of people don't know who he is, but he is the most mysterious and powerful man in the business and tech world, and easily the most powerful man in Silicon Valley. Regardless if you know who he is or not, you more than likely use his services that he is affiliated with every day. Venmo, PayPal, Peter Thiel created that. He's the co-founder of PayPal. Palantir Technologies is a government-used system that promotes AI software. And he's really changed the whole financial service industry. Thiel was also the first outside investor in Facebook, and without Thiel's first investment in Facebook, it never would have been lifted off the ground and gained as much momentum as it did to create the company it has today. He's also an author. His book 0 to 1, which talks about his experiences and knowledge that he has gained along the way in his career as a CEO and founder of multiple different companies. Now, many businessmen in the world are influential leaders. There are certain qualities that make Thiel stand out against the others. He's always been someone powerful, inspiring, influential, but unlike most, he operates under the radar. He is never out in the public eye, gaining attention like CEOs and businessmen would. He also sets goals, but he doesn't necessarily reach out for something bigger than he can handle at the moment. He really focuses on the details, and he doesn't get caught up in the what ifs of a project. That's something I really admire about him. Thiel has also had to make very tough decisions and act with knowledge and poise. A few strategies as a leader that really stood out to me more than others were that his use of differentiating internal management has proved him great success over the years. Now, Thiel's concept of this is that conflict in a workplace occurs when you have multiple people doing the exact same thing, competing against one another. That right there, in his opinion, is what drives most startups and companies to the ground. His idea, and a philosophy that works well for him, and has proved to work well for him, is differentiating internal management and giving each person something different to do, a different task when they're only competing against themselves to provide great work. Now, he's also about the philosophy that change happens in small groups and organizations. He's always been skeptical of solo efforts and a single hero. Smaller groups and organizations coming together is much more compelling than a government or larger group coming together, since it had to have happened at some point. Smaller groups have just a lot more to click with and a lot more to work with in Thiel's eyes. A few things that Thiel said he's learned as a leader and CEO that actually stood out to me a lot was to always prioritize the substance of what you're doing. Don't get caught up in the status and prestige games and the dazzling image of what could be at the end. Goals are always endlessly dazzling, but they're always endlessly disappointing. I believe that shows that he was very, very goal-oriented. So, a few of the things that I can take away about Thiel's leadership are how he operates under the radar. He's never in the public eye looking at the things that other CEOs and businessmen take very personally. He doesn't focus on the big prize. He's detail-oriented, and he's always worried about what the main focus is at the moment. Differentiating internal management. He doesn't let two people do the same thing and compete against one another. He likes to do things different and have each person have a specific job, which he obviously has proved great success with. He also uses the philosophy that change happens in small group settings, and that's where real change occurs. Some of the areas of influence that I will be talking about next are Thiel in business and technology, the world of investing, his support of scientific advances, and his political agenda. Thiel was co-founder of PayPal, the digital payment service, and the first outside investor in Facebook. He went on to go co-found Palantir, the data intelligence company that the government uses on a daily basis, and he's also written a book called Zero to One, which is a business bestseller. He runs a hedge fund and he's launched 3 venture capital firms in the last 5 years. He's truly a remarkable businessman and leader. Despite all of that, there are many other areas and disciplines that Thiel has taken on in his life. The financial sector and business world is far beyond its time with the help of Thiel and the person he is. Now, Thiel as an investor is someone that I have looked up to for a long time. There's actually a story out that was published recently about Peter Thiel and his investments in multiple startups such as Airbnb, PayPal, Palantir, and Facebook about 25 years ago. He invested $5,000 into a dispersion of 3 or 4 companies into a Roth IRA. And there's recently an article written that Roth IRA that Thiel owns is a $5 billion account. I think that right there tells you how good of an investor he truly is to turn that amount of money into $5 billion. He's backed multiple companies in the scientific realm, such as Compass Pathways, which works with psychedelics to improve depression, and Atai Life Sciences, which works to study schizophrenia. I admire a lot of things about him as a person, but what I admire the most is his prevalence in Silicon Valley. He's an outsider, but he knows everything. He's never in the public eye. He's never making big decisions that, well, he is, but he's not making big decisions in the spotlight. He's doing things that are so far beyond our time when it comes to investing and finding good companies. His backing of scientific companies, which I will talk about next, is something over the recent years that he has been the biggest supporter of. So he's always been on the look for the next big biotech, but he has a few different principles that he has to go off of. The first is that he doesn't want someone that's just their average biotech company. He wants someone that's going to go for the gold. He wants someone that's crazy as he is and is willing to take a risk to prove great success and to benefit the lives of millions of people. He doesn't want someone that will do the same thing 10 times in a row, but it be meaningless. He also is this big advocate and supporter of better funding and research for science. He says that there's more talent, labor, and working forces than there's ever been before. And there's more money than ever printed right now. So why not use that to back scientific funding and testing to unlock these new doors for new possibilities? So given his great success as a business leader, as well as a prominent man in Silicon Valley who loves to support biotechs, he was also a member of President Trump's 2016 transition team into office. Thiel was essentially Trump's right-hand man for a majority of Trump's term, and that's something that a lot of people didn't know. Thiel had a great speech at the Republican National Convention in 2016 talking about him entering politics and Trump, and Thiel stated that he's never had any interest in politics, but he believes that he could do a lot of change because he's a builder and he's going into the world of politics to rebuild and to fix something that's broken. And he said that he was backing Trump and going to be a member of his transition team into office because Trump is the same type of person as him. He's a builder. He's coming in to create change and fix something that was previously broken. So I admired that he actually had the courage to say that, and it's funny that he is a member of Trump's transition team, given that he's run multiple big tech firms, and big tech was not a fan of Trump. He's also from California, and he's also gay. And Thiel has made a really good name for himself in politics, and he's done a lot, and I think it would be quite interesting to see him back on the political scheme and upcoming races. Let's see what could happen. So I hope you guys all listen to me talk about Peter Thiel and expand upon the business world, investing world, his support of scientific advances, and what he's done with politics. He's personally been someone that I've looked up to for a long time, and I've thought he's always been an interesting man, and what he's done so far in his life is pretty incredible, and I hope you learned something about him today. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.